One more thing. The Luka Doncic trade continues to look worse as Anthony Davis comes up with an injury that is not nothing. What do we know? What does it mean on today's Locked On Mavs? One more thing.
I'm here because I have to be.
Dallas is going to get a seat at the table.
That's it. It's me versus the machine. Don't let his whiteness take away from his quickness.
You can rest later. You're young.
I never recovered here.
Wait. One more thing.
Welcome. You're still locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member covering the Dallas Mavericks for 10 years. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode, bonus episode, we're getting into what we know about the Anthony Davis injury so far, what it means for the Dallas Mavericks, what it means for the Luka Doncic trade, and all that. And so let's just start right here. The only official thing that we've been told is that Anthony Davis has his injury, and he was doubtful to return during the game on Saturday against the Rockets. And then Anthony Davis himself said it's nothing serious. He just felt a little twinge or whatever he said. And so then it gets reported that by Mark Stein, quote, "It is feared that the Mavericks' newly acquired Anthony Davis will be sidelined for an indefinite period, with the severity of his abductor injury sustained Saturday still being determined," league sources say. Shams Charania from ESPN chimes in and says, Dallas Mavericks star Anthony Davis is expected to miss multiple weeks with the left abductor strain. Sources tell ESPN his absence could stretch to a month. Before we talk about all the other people that weighed in, a lot of Twitter doctors giving us a lot of, and they're real doctors, but they're doctors on Twitter, gave their opinions on what it could be. Dr. Brian Suterer has been a great friend of the show, had some really good insight that we'll talk about. But let's just start with this. Like, this is one of the reasons why the Luka Doncic trade was just absurd on its face. We've tried on this show, we try to be positive and try to give you, all right, this is what we think the organization is thinking, and you're a Mavs fan, this is one reason to maybe get excited about this. And so Anthony Davis comes back on Saturday, plays this first half of basketball that looks awesome, goes out with an injury, and then we were told by him that it was nothing. This is me learning my lesson once again to not trust players when they say, hey, the injury was nothing, it's fine. Because you just never know. And the fact that Nico Harrison and Patrick Dumont said all the things they've said the last couple of days, we've talked about on this show. We did a whole show yesterday about the comments Patrick Dumont said that were just ridiculous about this whole trade. The fact that they did all that, said all that, gave all their reasoning about Luka and his conditioning and taking it seriously and all that, and traded for a guy that misses time all the time in Anthony Davis. Day-to-day Davis was his nickname. And I wanted to be fair to him. He was healthy, really good. He was really healthy last year. Played 76 games, played a lot of games this year so far, but had already been dealing with an injury. This abductor injury is not new. It's not a new injury. It's something he was dealing with and may have rushed back. And there's a non-zero chance that he rushed back because of the response to this trade. And I've seen some people even blame Mavs fans, saying that, look, Mavs fans, look, you made Anthony Davis rush back because he wanted to prove to everybody, hey, I'm here now. You saw the emotion and everything. I'm not going to go that far. But I think that Anthony Davis did feel the pressure to come back to play in front of that home crowd for that first home game. It was a big moment. Mavs were, the fans were into it and all that. There's the protest happening outside. I mean, there's emotions all over the place. And I think Anthony Davis took that personally. He talked about in his introductory press conference, I want to breathe life back into these fans because they need it. And so now you look at this and just say, man, if everything was fine and Anthony Davis was a healthy player and would play, the majority of the games and all that, this trade may be something different. But the fact that it was that specific player, that you were worried about Luka missing games because of his conditioning, but you trade for a player and Anthony Davis that gets hurt all the time, is just infuriating and frustrating because it makes it look even worse. It's just even worse now. Before, if he misses a month, and so you go from Luka Doncic to now Anthony Davis. You already went from Jalen Brunson to Kyrie Irving. It's like just keep trading in older and more experienced, but more injury prone as well. Because Jalen Brunson plays more games than Kyrie Irving does. Kyrie has injuries here and there. And now the Mavs window is shrinking. Like if Anthony Davis, here's some reports. Let's talk about some things let's talk about some things that we know so we actually establish what we can go into. So we know the two reports from Stein and Shams that I just mentioned. Indefinite period of time from Shams or from Stein. Shams says multiple weeks, could stretch to a month. with this. A couple other people weighed in, and Dr. Jesse Morse says, it sounds like it may have been a re-injury to Anthony Davis. Injury would result in what is called a, quote, sports hernia. A couple other doctors talked about that too. Mavericks were very aware of this injury when completing his exam. Now he's very likely to require season-ending surgery. So that's speculation. That's speculation from somebody that knows how these injuries work. But if it is season-ending surgery, or if it's a month, and a month takes into March 10th, right? If we go a month from Saturday or whatever. Then all of a sudden, you're talking about like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 games left if he comes back on March 10th or March 11th. There's like 16 games left in the season. And so now all of a sudden your window has just shrunk so much because this season was going to be part of the window because he was going to come back healthy, and it was something that the Mavs were probably putting into account. And it just keeps making this trade look worse and worse and worse. And it continues to make no sense why you make this trade now, what you got back. That Anthony Davis was considered, all right, well, he's probably worth 4 or 5 first-round picks. So then all of a sudden factor that in. Well, he's also going to be 32, and he deals with these injuries all the time. And we talked about it at the time. He was injured at the time of the trade. This is not all of a sudden now he's injured, so now we got to talk about how it's worse. This is factored in at the beginning. And now you're just dealing with it. And it sucks that Mavs fans had to deal with the entire experience of Anthony Davis in one game. I've seen a lot of Lakers fans, if you're listening to the show now, a lot of you said you just saw the whole Anthony Davis experience in one game. Plays awesome, looks great, team's awesome, comes down with a non-contact injury, and you're like, oh my God, he's out for the season. Then afterwards, he says it's not a big deal. And then afterwards, a report comes out, he could be out weeks, maybe months, or maybe a month. Wild. Just a wild turn of events. And who could have predicted it? That's kind of what I keep coming back to. Oh, who could have predicted this? Coming up, let's talk about what we know about this injury from some other Twitter doctors speculating about this. And then we'll talk about what this means for the Dallas Mavericks going forward. Talk about all that and more coming up.
Touche.
Today's episode of Locked On Mavs brought to you by Skims. When I found Skims was making underwear for men, I was intrigued. Skims sent us some underwear, and I love them. Love the quality. Love how they hold. I've been using the boxer briefs, and I love the boxer briefs. They have all kinds of other stuff too, though. I was checking out their website. They got the boxers and the briefs. They have tees and tanks. They have hoodies and sweatshirts. Bottoms, I need some shorts. I need some shorts and probably some sweatpants from Skims too. So I'm going to Skims this website and check it out and see what they have there, because I love the Skims that I've been given right now. Shop Skims Men's at skims.com, and they have Skims stores all over the place. And then when you buy something, because you'll check it out and you'll see that you want something, let them know that we sent you. After you place your order, select podcast in the survey and select our show in the drop-down menu that follows. Check it out. See what they have available. Again, like I said, there's all kinds of stuff. They have lounging around stuff. They have some active wear. They have a bunch of other things too. Joggers. Yeah, I'm getting some of these. I'm going to check out some of these shorts. Oh, they got a deal right now on these men's long shorts. Normally $64, now $26. Stuff like that. I'll check it out on Skims. Skims.com. Check out Skims stores. And again, when you place your order, select podcast in the survey, check our show in there. And if you're checking for Valentine's Day, they have all kinds of stuff as well for women, men, kids, even pets. Oh, I got to go to the pets thing too. Check it out again, skims.com.
Explain yourself.
Sorry.
Thanks for hanging out with us on the One More Thing. It's a bonus episode of Locked On Mavs. Being part of the Raccoon Squad, listening every day. We appreciate each and every one of you. If you want to support the show, text us, get text alerts from us. Check the QR code or the link in the description. Text the number 214-643-8637 to be updated on all this stuff and about your Dallas Mavericks. So let's talk about some things that we know about this injury. So our friend Jeff Stotts in Street Clothes says the adductor muscles are more commonly known as the groin. A multi-week absence suggests a more moderate strain. So we're waiting to see on that. So if it is a multi-week absence, which that's the report right now, and the Mavs seem to fear that, so that it could be a moderate strain to that and not maybe something worse, which is something to think about. Jeff Stott says, worth noting, AD has a history of low-grade left adductor strains dating back to his time in New Orleans. He has also been nursing an abdominal strain that could be connected to this issue. And so then our friend Brian Suterer, who's been on this show, great YouTube channel. I'll put the link in the description for this video. He goes over it, muscle by muscle, literally. He's got like this whole diagram, which is awesome. He mentioned that the abdominal muscle connects to the groin muscle because they both insert at the pubic bone. And so it was interesting that Anthony Davis was walking around and he was grabbing like at his crotch, like at his like that area, instead of an abdominal or even the groin necessarily. He was grabbing at his crotch. And so he speculated, all right, because of that, he thought maybe it was not necessarily an abdominal thing or an abductor thing, but it was maybe this quote unquote sports hernia type issue. And so they're all kind of speculating what this could mean and all that. It's just frustrating. So go check out Brian Sutter's video. He explains it much better than I do, obviously. But if it's a couple weeks or a month, either way, this Dallas Mavericks team now, what they're looking at is more of the same. It's more of the same, but with Max Christie. Because the Mavs have been playing without Luka for a month already before this. And so now you're just back to that. You're back to, there's a lot being asked of Kyrie right now on offense. PJ Washington was questionable for this game coming up against the Kings. We'll see if he plays in that one. It's just going to be a lot asked on these guys. And you look at where the Mavs are in the standings. They were already kind of playing from behind. You're 28-25 when the injury happened. Glad you won that game. The Warriors are the 11th right now, and they're 500. They're 26-26. They got better with the Jimmy Butler trade, I think. Kings, I don't know. Maybe they probably got worse with the Zach LaVine thing. We'll see with them in that game. Suns got a little worse, probably, maybe. I don't know. I don't really know how to consider them. Clippers with Kawhi Leonard back have gotten better. You think they made a bunch of deals at the deadline? Like, you're just looking at them and you're like, man, and the Spurs are 6 games under 500. They're in 12th right now, and they got better with the De'Aaron Fox trade. Even though it hasn't been a fast start for them. But eventually I think they'll pick it up. Like, you're just playing behind the 8 ball right now if you're the Dallas Mavericks. The other thing about this injury that I think is just so frustrating is this something that Mark Stein reported in his Substack. Again, Stein, you just have to subscribe to it. Just great stuff all the time. Quote, it was largely Nico Harrison who has increasingly believed since the Dallas Mavericks one-sided loss to the Celtics in the NBA Finals that Doncic would not improve his commitment to conditioning, his off-the-court dietary discipline, would not improve as a leader or culture setter, would not improve as his chronicled comportment issues with the referees, would not be able to stay healthy as he got older, and thus could not, after the Mavericks and Doncic grapple with these issues since Harrison arrived in June 2021. He had been given the 5-year Supermax deal worth nearly $350 million that Nico Harrison refused to give him that. And so you make the choice to trade Luka Doncic and trade him for a guy that gets hurt more than Luka Doncic does. I don't care if Luka gives you all the other things you just mentioned that you're frustrated with. Oh, he's not a culture setter or a leader. Well, it didn't stop them from making the NBA Finals last year. Oh, his dietary, it didn't stop him from making the NBA Finals last year. Conditioning. All right, he dealt with injuries last year. That was definitely something he was dealing with injuries this year. But you didn't make that better with this. And to refuse to give him a Supermax deal, but then to pay Anthony Davis now. I mean, Anthony Davis' contract is not the huge Supermax that Luka was going to get. But Anthony Davis is making $43 million this year, $54 next year, $58 the year after that, and then a $63 million deal that's a player option in 2027-28 when he's going to be, 34 years old. It just doesn't make any sense to make this deal. You're going to be paying Anthony Davis $63 million when he's 34 after all these injuries and all that. And Luka Doncic is going to be, 29, 28. It just gets worse for the Mavericks. And I think that's kind of the takeaway is that it'd be great if Anthony Davis was healthy. We could talk about the merits of them as basketball players. And we tried to do that yesterday on the show, but you can't because there's this factor for Anthony Davis. If you had traded for, I don't know, like a Mikal Bridges type that never gets hurt, then all of a sudden, then that's a different story, but it's not. And here we are. Gets worse. Nico Harrison's reasons for this trade continue to make less sense. Thanks for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavs. We appreciate you for checking out this show. The one more thing, again, check the QR code. Different ways to follow the show. We'll be back with a full episode later today, and 5 days a week. We'll continue to do that in every single post game. Guys, thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs.
Peace out.
Boom.